Good morning and welcome to the February meeting of the Council on Aging Board of Directors. My name is Alex Roman. I'm the chair. We follow Robert's Rules of Order, and I left my notes in my backpack here. So what else do I need to say? Introduce the staff members, starting on my left.
Renee D'Argento, Outreach Coordinator.
Aisha Sahin, Assistant Director.
Holly Luke, Council on Aging Director.
And the board members, Ruth.
Ruth Scala.
Rachel Kleiman Wexler.
John DeHaze.
Good morning, Larry Mayon.
Good morning. Okay,
Out to the minutes.
where are the minutes on here?
Actually, it's not on there.
Yeah, we'll do it anyway.
Approve minutes.
Yes.
We'll add that.
Do we need a vote to amend the agenda?
Motion to approve the minutes?
From October, November, what months?
It was,
October, November, January.
yeah.
October, November, and
January.
January.
months,
Right.
Yeah.
minutes we're approving.
There's a motion to approve.
Yes,
Second, yes? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay. Financial reports.
So, this month I am going to speak to the spreadsheets that we have versus Munis, hoping that there's a little bit more clarity. But what I did advise the advisory board is to kind of review the Munis reports, both the long financials and the short financials, and then compare it to the spreadsheet. That would be my suggestion for every month. But because the Munis comes with so many codes and different kinds of wording that, is difficult for all of us to kind of understand, I decided that we'll work on the spreadsheet and see if that kind of makes things a little bit easier. So you can see that right now Aisha has up, so this is for the general fund. So when I talk about the operating expenses for the general fund that is voted at town meeting in May. So it has all of the same information that the Munis reports have. What's a little different is that our spreadsheet is actually the real-time updates, because we're able to update our spreadsheet as we're doing all of the invoices or expenses and deposits, whereas Munis, it can take a couple of weeks to kind of catch up. So I'm just going to go down the whole spreadsheet table that you see here. So at the beginning of the year, we're allocated for utility and telephones for the staff at $2,000, and you can see our remaining balance is $840.30. Car allowance mileage, that is for when any of the staff members utilize their own vehicles to get from one place to another outside of the senior center. And at the beginning of the year, we're allocated $1,000, and we are at $562.16. Hospital and medical, that is for our van drivers for when they get their physicals. You can see that we started at $660, and we're at $435. Dues and memberships. So those are for like our partnerships and our collaborations with ESWA, MCOA, My Senior Center, things like that. $5,560 is what we began with, and we are at $3,026.08. Trainings and conferences, exactly what that is. Usually that pertains to the MCOA conferences that are held in October, but it could be anything else in between in a fiscal year. We began at $3,000, and we are at $2,608.44. Office supplies, we're there at $1,000, and we have spent it down to $0. Print postage, so that is for our monthly newsletter. For the general fund, the town allocates $2,000. That is also down to $0. And services not classified started at $4,000 and is at $10.04. Services not classified are things like that, things that we don't think about or prepare for. So I've said this before. So if an appliance gets broken, or we have to replace like a printer, or we need a new scanner, or even if we're paying for a program that we hadn't anticipated, that's what the services not classified comes from. Does anybody have any questions on this table for the general fund?
Raquel?
A general question. So now we have like 5 more months.
Mhm.
So the locations that are zero or close to zero, if there are some expenses that needs to incur to these type of categories, where is this money gonna come from? What's moving Where are you moving the money from?
So most of it will likely come from either the formula grant or the revolving fund, which I'll talk about again.
Okay.
But, so when I sit down and figure out the budget for the following fiscal year, I look at all of our expenses that we've done in the last 3 years, and I try to foresee the foreseeable future of what we might need. The great thing about the COA department is that we have such strong accounts that can help us. We have the formula grant that comes in at $138,000. We have our community donations account that I think we have $10,000. We have a revolve. So we have many more accounts, I think, than some other departments are able to utilize to help, pay for the things that we need. So I'm going to get to the rest of that and kind of explain how it all falls, how it all aligns. So if you could get to the formula grant?
When you initially do the budget, Holly, do you do the total figure and then do the disbursement between funds?
Yes, so actually, can you go back to the accounts page on the very, on the FY '26 page, I should say, and you drop all the way down to the bottom where it shows the totals? Right there. So you can see at the bottom of that spreadsheet where it shows the greens that we've got the general fund, we have the formula grant, we've got the revolving fund, and we've got the gift account. So each year when I sit down to look at what the next fiscal year budget is going to be, I first figure out what was the total amount, and then I figure out where we're able to allocate money for certain things. So general fund is always what it is, because that's the vote. That one never changes. But you will see from time to time, when we have different things come up in the senior center, that we may have to finagle the formula grant around a little bit, because agreements change, prices go up for one thing or another. So you will see from time to time, if you looked on a Monday that something said 4,000, but you looked on like Wednesday, it said 3,000, it was likely because we had to make some changes in the formula grant. But they're all right there. It shows it in the table. So Aisha, if you can go back to the formula grant table.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
You can move money around, but not between fund sources.
We can move, no, we can even do that. But I tend to not touch the general fund at all unless there was something like an expense that shouldn't have come out of the general fund. It should have been in the formula grant, in which case we'll reclassify.
Yeah.
So, and those kind of, and they're not even mistakes, right? Because there's no real right or wrong way for, especially when we're categorizing the work that we do out of the senior center in those 4 groups that I've always talked about, the outreach, the transportation, nutrition, and programming, that those have to be flexible, but I try not to do anything with the general fund. And I always try to get the general fund down to 0, because if we don't use the money in general fund, it goes right back to the town, right? So that's the first thing I try to expense, and then we utilize the other accounts as we need to. So moving on to the formula grant table. So again, this is everything that's in Munis. Actually, can you go up to this little table first? So just as I was just saying that when I talk about the COA and the senior center, I break it down into the 4 categories. Those are the 4 categories. So you can see where the expenses have come in for the 4 categories: programs, nutrition, outreach, and transportation, and then where the deposits come in through. And it kind of makes sense where the deposits are coming. So you can see that we've had 0 deposits for programs, right? But you look down to nutrition, outreach, and transportation. Those are our major services that really do rely on funding to keep those going. Programs are primarily free, or if there is a cost associated with them, the instructors do request that they be paid directly through a donation, which, again, when we receive blanketed donations, we tend not to put it into programs. We put it into our other service categories that do require the funding. So there's the table at the very top, and then when you scan down, Aisha, if you can go down a little bit, you can see that everything is still broken up. So you can see that programs is colored by blue, nutrition is colored by green, outreach by yellow, transportation by purple. And you can see everything that we started with everything that we've expensed, all of the deposits, and what the remaining balance is. So again, same thing that Munis shows, but this is, again, real time, and it is updated and will reflect the same thing. Munis tends to, carry over the year before and things like that. So it makes it a little difficult to understand. So that's why if the board agrees that this is the easier way to kind of go through it, and then you can still compare the totals. This is what I suggest. Comparing the totals and some of the line items when I do send the financial reports from Munis, to compare it to this spreadsheet, because they should align. And if they don't align 100%, it should be within maybe even $1,000, depending upon where our expenses are. But if you ever have any questions, you can certainly reach out to myself or Aisha. Are there any questions regarding the formula grant table or the line items? And I should mention that all of the line items that you see under this table, the formula grant, is basically what I'll be using for FY27 also, because a lot of these things do carry over from year to year. The things that may change that we'll see is if I expect that we might need a new COA vehicle, I might allocate a certain amount of more money towards that. So those are really the only things that will really fluctuate. But also, to answer your question, Raquel, earlier, you can see that if you go down to the yellow part, outreach, where it says newsletter, so in addition to the $2,000 that we have from the general fund that goes to the mailing of the newsletter, we also allocated $7,500 of that, because it costs roughly $600 to $700 right now a month to mail out 1,100 newsletters. So we do always have to dip into somewhere else. If we didn't have the formula grant fund, we would have to change our general fund request, but fortunately, we don't have to. So if there are no questions on the formula grant, we'll go over to the revolving table. So the revolving table is a little smaller, as I've said before. So most of the money that goes into revolving, now the revolving account is the account that maintains our 2 COA vans. And right now, we have the agreement with the Shrewsbury Housing Authority, so we receive a check roughly about $833 a month. And what that agreement is that we do give priority to Housing Authority should they need transportation for special events, if they need it, or anything like that, because we can utilize the 2 town COA vans. It doesn't impact them in any way to utilize the WRTA vans, because those are used the same across the board no matter who uses it. But it's primarily for our white van usage and the additional outreach that they gain from both all of our services, especially with Renee and Cynthia, outreach and transportation. So what we have recognized is that our revolving fund is not in a place where I feel comfortable having it, because sometimes the cost of our vans is high, that what we're looking to for the rest of this fiscal year and into FY27 is when we do receive different kinds of donations, whether it's people buying for our jewelry or paying for our Tuesday night meals, every now and then you may see us deposit those funds into the revolving accounts, just so we have something to sustain it with.
Does this account start with a revenue budget?
No,
So it's only as you go?
yeah. So we can't, I believe this question came up last month, and I don't know the exact answer, but I do know that we can't exceed $75,000 in the revolving fund. But to my knowledge, it's never even been close. It's always fluctuated about between $5,000 and $10,000 is what it was. When we transferred over to the new transportation model a couple of years ago, where Cynthia is now no longer doing the scheduling for all 4 vans. We don't have 7 van drivers anymore, we have 4. So that has changed kind of the operating part on the revolving, where I believe the balance is of the lower out of all of our accounts, because we don't have as much use coming out of it anymore. We don't have payroll where we once did. And right now, it's basically maintenance. But as you can see, a total of $3,900 isn't gonna buy us a new van. So really thinking forward, we have to be creative with the money that we receive, you know, from donations and make sure that we can keep that account alive.
Does the RTA give you help on budgeting maintenance for each year?
So the WRTA maintains their own vehicles. What we do with the agreement through the WRTA is we provide the salaries for our 2 van drivers. That is it. So that's where that agreement comes from. But they maintain their own vehicles, so if something goes wrong with them, they come and pick them up, or we drop them off and they give us a new vehicle. Unlike our COA vehicles, those are ours. We are responsible for the van drivers, the salary, the maintenance, and the upkeep.
And what is the initial source of revenue on this?
For which one?
The revolving fund?
For the revolving fund, like I said, it's mostly either donations or the agreement that we have with the Shrewsbury Housing Authority.
Okay, so you know that number at the beginning?
Yes, yep. Yep. If we can go over to the gift accounts? Oh, you're already there, thank you. So the gift accounts. So the gift account, again, is anything, any kind of community or partner donation, any source of, at all. Multicultural Festival was something that we had a couple of years ago, which is why you see a 0 balance there. The general one is the one that the COA is able to use. So you can see that we started with $20,893.28, and we're at $10,634.98. Reason being is you can see that we expensed $10,000, but what we did was transfer that right into the sensory garden. So moving on to the sensory garden, we have $32,630.92. For Yahoo, we have $100. For the WRTA contract, so that is what we were just talking about, what we received from the WRTA to pay for our 2 full-time van drivers, both Joe and Lynn. So this money isn't, we receive payments from the WRTA on a monthly basis, so this does not reflect the rest of the year. Some of this is carryover. And then our food pantry account, $7,277.61. So those are all of our accounts in the real-time spreadsheet. Any questions with any of those, and then compared to the Munis reports?
So the food pantry deposits, are those contributions?
Yes, so one of the major ones, if you remembered, Chief Joseph had given the $5,000 a month ago. So those are all community donations, yep.
Very well on.
So how did the advisory board feel about this kind of financial review versus the Munis?
Like it very much.
Makes a lot more sense. You can figure
easier.
out what it's saying.
As long as we get the detail behind the scenes so we can kind of
Yep, so
wish-wash.
Right.
Yep, so if you, can you scroll over to the left and kind of just go down? So you can see,
I'll
can
do
you blow up a
formula
couple of
since
lines?
There's no
Yeah.
real names.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. So can you just blow one up? So you can see that when we get an invoice, right? So you can see in the subcategory departments, all of those, you only have 4 choices. You've got nutrition, outreach programs, or transportation. So when Kelly, our office assistant, gets an invoice, she puts it right into the spreadsheet. She marks it what category it should go under. She marks it, who is it from, the amount, and it's all right there. So there is never a question of where the money is going. Now, on some occasions, it might happen where, like for instance, we have a revised ESWA agreement coming up where it's gonna cost us a little bit more money for the Wednesday cultural meals that we hadn't anticipated. So it is important that myself, Aisha, working with Renee, go into the budget and figure out where are we going to move that money around, because we have to make sure we're not putting ourselves in a deficit. But my other plan is, I never really want to carry over more than $5,000 from the formula grant because we're given the money to use for the seniors, so I want to make sure that we do that. So that's kind of like I said, when you might look at it one day and then the next day there's a little bit of a change, it likely is the fact that we had to move something around.
Does every department head that's working off those munis report have to do something like this so that it's understandable?
I believe that we're one of the, so I have offered this to the town manager's office, like that we'd be happy to share. Whether or not they've shared it, I'm not sure. But for us, where we have so many expenses and things that really make the senior center operate on every single day, this was the easiest way that we could make it work, because my first year here, I was so scared that I was going to be in a deficit and not, because I didn't understand the software and the things that it was coming out. So this just makes more sense for us.
It's nice to have it in real time.
I like the colors. Makes it easy to follow.
It does.
So you all have this link that you can utilize anytime, and if you ever had any questions, you just need to ask.
And how is it reconciled with Munis?
So it's an extra step, if you will. So Tuesday mornings, the senior center, Kelly gets all of the invoices that came in from the week prior. She sits down with them, she puts them into Munis, and then once they're in Munis, she scans everything, and then she comes into this spreadsheet and she puts everything in. So this isn't mandatory, this is something that just helps us, you know, as a department, as an advisory board, as the community. If anybody ever had any questions about where does our funds go, this is right here. It's not secret, anybody could see it, and people are seeing it, so,
She also compares it to the year-to-date
yes.
spreadsheet, and then if anything's off, then we go line by line to find out what it is.
Who actually cuts the checks for all of this?
Treasurer's office.
Okay, so that's, even though it's not coming from the general fund, all the funds are covered.
Yeah, so when we put in an invoice, it goes to accounting, then it goes to the treasurer's office, and then sometimes it either goes back to us or it goes right to the business that the check is going to.
And are there limits on who can sign those checks depending on the amount of the check?
Yeah, there is definitely,
Do you sign checks?
so we don't necessarily sign checks, but anything over $750 has to go into a purchase order. So Kelly or Aisha will put a purchase order request into Munis. I get the request, I sign off. Once I sign off, it goes to Kevin Mizikar to officially sign off. Once that signs off, it goes then to either accounting in the treasurer's office, and that's how the check is processed. And that's for something of over $750. Anything under $750, I okay when they send me the full Munis report each Tuesday. I just check it, make sure, you know, if I have any questions, I ask them, and if not, just sign it off, and it does its software magic.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Comments?
Okay.
Great. Director's report, senior center and COA happenings.
Yeah, so we're gonna go right over to the COA data thriving spreadsheet. Everybody should have gotten the link, and if you press on, where we are, January, we're reviewing January's data. So I'm not gonna go through each and every single one of them, but you can see that there, it shows about our hoop board, it shows about our engagement. What we have definitely noticed unanimously across the board for staff is that the past month has been so extremely cold that we have definitely seen a decline in the amount of people that have come to the senior center. We've had reports of, you know, people just having a hard time at home and, you know, because of the cold. So we've definitely seen a decline this month, but it would be expected.
What criteria do you use to eliminate programs that have very low attendance?
So the first thing we do is we look at it probably on a monthly basis, Aisha and I, and Aisha being in charge of the volunteers, so those instructors that come to the senior center every day are volunteers. She will recognize that, we'll send out either a mass email to instructors, and we actually show them the data so they can see what their monthly sign-ins are. Because we definitely know that not everybody signs in, and we can't make everybody sign in, but that is the goal. So I would say the approach in notifying the instructors of what the software is saying has been hugely successful because nobody likes to see their programs not do well. And I would say since I've been here, I've probably only actually canceled 3 programs, and it was a mutual agreement with the instructor. Like, some things just don't stick. But for the most part, even we have a couple of classes that only have like 4 people, and that is fine with me as long as the space isn't needed. Once the space is needed, then we have to relook at things, but we haven't had to make those real decisions. So we've been fortunate with that. Any questions on any of the data?
Do we have a new piano teacher?
I'm gonna let you handle piano.
So we have he's a student and he comes bi-weekly for an hour on Tuesdays from 3 to 4. It's by appointment only, so if you are interested, you can contact me and then I contact him.
And then we have a group that does meet on early Tuesday mornings, just briefly by themselves, because they like to just play.
8:30 to 9:30 they come. There's no instructor, they just practice by
Yeah,
themselves.
we hear them.
Yeah.
So if there's no other questions on the data, the next one is policies and procedures review. So we've noticed that with the changing of the times of, just the day and age, that occasionally we may have to update policies and procedures. So what I did was I took our old policies and procedures that were originally created in 2000 when I got here, and with the help of AI, kind of cleaned them up and spruce them up with some of the things that we additionally do. So I had sent them for the board to review, just to see if you had any feedback or suggestions that I may have missed. One of the things that I do use the policies and procedures with is it is up on our website, so everybody can review them. I do share them with my fellow peers at other senior centers, but on occasion we do have to share them with people that come into the senior center, just to remind them of the expectations that are happening at the senior center. So I really want to be mindful that that the policies and procedures are enforced, but yet warm and still welcoming and understandable and achievable, I should say, right? Because I don't want to ever make it so, we're not making it a welcoming environment. So does anybody have any comments or suggestions on this document?
Well, as a super senior, I sat down and read this, and I think seniors come to congregate for the sociability, the hospitality, the warmth and friendship you get out of it, and that's not here. It's just not in any of this when you read it. And it just kind of troubled me a little bit. These are don'ts. Don't do this and don't do that, like when you were back in 8th grade. And are all these things addressing problems that have actually happened at the
Yes.
senior center?
And yes, and things that we deal with not on a daily basis, but probably on a weekly basis. And what this is like a code of conduct, right? Because not everybody treats the space of the senior center the same. And sometimes it comes down to where I myself have to make decisions or have to have town management involved, because there is a problem that is being disruptive. So unfortunately, as much as I hate to report that it happens, it does happen. So really, the policies and procedures are to use for kind of a support system for myself, because if the advisory board approves these, I guess, policies, then I do have a backup in, like, we haven't had to do this yet, but a request of removal for somebody out of the senior center, or if somebody is just being non-compliant or something like that. Unfortunately, it does happen. So I need something that supports me as a director and also gives me something when I report back to the town managers that I have done my due diligence as a supervisor of the senior center to make sure that everybody feels welcome. And that's really where I feel this document aligns. It's not more so, it's not meant to be that you this is fully instructed. I think it's, for me, it seems to some people, I think it would seem obvious, or like however you just perceived it, as it doesn't feel welcoming. Unfortunately, it's still necessary, and I'm not sure.
I guess I've just never seen policies and procedures written in the first person. They were always more general. It wasn't
Okay.
coming from just one person. It was something that was sort of the backbone of an organization. And I just kind of felt it was harsh. And I understand what you're coming from, because as I read it carefully, I've seen a lot of these things happen in my own environment. But I don't know if you want to call it policies and procedures. I wish I had dug out the old ones and looked at them, but I did not, so.
If it was called code of conduct, would that make more sense?
Kind of, I don't know what the rest of the board feels, but I was just looking at it from my own perspective and past experience.
I know.
Renee first.
Yeah, I guess to put things in perspective, I would say that the welcoming part of our environment comes from our mission statement, and in every program and thing that we do, we're very inclusive of people and very respectful of people. And this basically is a standalone document that is outlining the type of behavior that we expect at the senior center, so that people can be respectful of each other.
Yeah, well, the
So-
first sentence is mission, and it doesn't,
But we have all of those other things in so many other places that I'm not sure that this would be the appropriate place to put something like that, but.
Maybe it should be combined and fine-tuned.
Or maybe we need a separate document that is, I've been with organizations where you have a mission statement, a vision statement, values, and then, goals and objectives for the year, which I know we have.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you have some ideas or some samples from other organizations.
I wish I did. I've
Yeah.
written a whole bunch of them. I don't think I have
I
any yet.
kind of like the code of conduct
I agree with that.
calling of it as well, because you do need to establish
Yeah.
a code of conduct.
You do.
What I think I heard you say was this was more for you, and the people running the senior center than it was for the actual people attending the senior center. And I don't know that anybody attending the senior center
We'll ever read it.
would ever read this,
So what
Well,
happens?
so what I would
Sorry.
possibly do is create a really dumbed down version, that could be displayed prominently on a bulletin board with a pointer to the full text of the policy and procedures. But I think, reading between the lines, it's mostly common sense. Mostly what you expect from people that would come here is to behave themselves, and in a simple wording.
Right.
And
So one of the things that we do is this document is printed off, so when somebody comes to volunteer at the senior center, it is stapled to their volunteer application, so they kind of understand the expectations. I utilize this same document for when there is something that happens over at the senior center and I do have to dress a person or persons. I always do it one-to-one, and then I always follow up with a written thing on letterhead, and I staple that to the policies and procedures, and I mail it, and I also send an email copy if I'm able, because I want to make sure that I always document the conversations and the things that are happening. So this right here is a resource, because if somebody says, well, I didn't know, but yes, you did, and I sent it to you in 3 different ways. And unfortunately, it does happen, right? So those aren't the things that we always want to report, but to make sure that everybody's staying safe, everybody's having that same fun opportunity at the senior center, these things are necessary. So I do agree, John, that we could certainly make this an easier read. It is available both on the website, on our hoop board, QR code from our newsletter to this. So it is available, and again, we do hand them out when people come and volunteer.
how many people that come into the senior center you think actually sign in?
How many sign in?
Percent?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the data graph that I showed last month showed that we've done an exceptional job on getting people to sign in now. Again, we can't get 100%, it's not mandatory to sign in, but we wonder that all the time, because we have a lot of things that happen over at the senior center that we do not utilize my senior center for.
Well, I see the sign-in, you know, the little terminal where you can scan your card or whatever, is kind of out of the way.
Yeah, we had this discussion last month, but the senior center isn't large enough to have two. And the reason why we like having the one is right by our hub of information with our receptionist where the staff is. So if we had a kiosk somewhere else, now we're missing the whole person-to-person contact if we had an additional one, right? So most people will go to the senior center, go to sign in at the My Senior Center kiosk, and 9 out of 10 times, there's a message on there from us. It could be that the senior center's closing on Fridays, or that an instructor cancels. But if they have an additional question, they can come right to the window, which is 2 feet away, and ask those questions. We get up from our seats, we're having that one-to-one. That's our best form of person-to-person, is when people are coming.
But why can't you put it right in front of the door?
There's no plug, there's no way to have it there. It would be obtrusive to the ADA walking path.
Well, I mean, you know, not like right in front of the door, but it should be like one of the first things you see. I mean, you could walk into the senior center and not even notice it.
Depending what door you're walking in, you're gonna miss it no matter what, right? So, Raquel?
So when people actually provided with the tag, they should be instructed, and I know they are. The other thing, I actually like it, but what I did notice, for example, because it's my pet peeve, Shine, only one person signed in for January, which means 15 or 16 or whatever did not sign. So maybe one way to rectify it when people are scheduling Shine appointment, to have the volunteers mention to them, please make sure to sign in for Shine when you come in. Also, have them reminded about bring your list of drugs, because most of them, do you need to bring that? Do I need to know how much money I'm earning? No, I don't know. I don't know any of that.
So,
So it's just little things to assist me and Nancy, but also assist the center by telling them. I mean, I saw only one person signed, and we had very busy January.
what's interesting by your statement, and it's 100% true, is we did have a volunteer who was like, originally she was the call person on every single Wednesday, and unfortunately she had to take a hiatus off, but she would call every single time. The only way you're going to be able to see her is if you fill out a form.
I missed it.
So thank you for the reminder, because we will certainly remind our receptionists that are going to call today to make sure that they have those things, because we forget.
And sign in.
Yep, and sign it, yes, sign in is a big one. But they do have the instructions as far as the requesting of the drugs, and we always tell them that, and still they'll come the next time or whatever and say they forgot or they weren't told. But that is part of our message, but I agree with you that we have forgotten about the scheduling to do the check-in.
Well, couldn't you, as the person they're meeting with, ask them before they leave, have you signed in? And
I could do that. I could ask them, did you
Suggest they
sign in?
sign in
If
as they
not, please
leave, but
do
at
it when
least-
you leave. I could do that.
You know, if
Yep.
every instructor
I'll tell
reminded
Nancy the
people.
same thing. Yeah, I could do that.
Okay.
I say, oh yeah, did you sign in to see me? Oh yeah, no, please do when you leave.
Do you get feedback from the other
Thanks.
persons putting on events, that they look at the numbers and they say, oh, I've had a lot more people come than apparently signed in?
Well,
Or are they
so
saying,
those-
no, everybody's great about it? I
So
don't
when we
know.
have special events, or like one-off speakers, people are supposed to sign in under special programs that's on the My Senior Center kiosk. Many times the people that are coming in, whether it's a partner or a collaborative, they'll take their own time, you know, and send us a report of how many people showed up. But we always know we're not gonna get everybody, like I said, we all have programs where there's one a day where we can't capture everything that happens, just because like it might be just a special program where somebody's coming in and they're like, I'm not filling out a form, I'm not signing in, and we just do our numbers. And unfortunately, My Senior Center doesn't offer us a way to just plug those numbers in. They only let you plug people in. So we try to do our best to capture all of that. I think the numbers, our graph from last month showed how much better we're doing of that.
Can I
Sure,
ask a
go
question?
ahead.
So just I'm thinking about Shine again. Now that we belong to the ESWA, we get customers that show up from Worcester as well and other cities. And I don't think they have our scannable cards, do they?
Most senior centers have My Senior Center, but some do not. For like some of the smaller senior centers, it's a lot of money. It's like more than $10,000 to start. So some of the smaller ones may not, but I don't really recognize many people that come in that say they've never heard of it, or like we're able to transfer like one center's scan card to our scan card. All they have to do is fill out a form. They don't have to have two cards. So that definitely helps, but I don't really see many senior centers that don't have it anymore, because it's the way I break it down
Yeah.
is 15 years ago, Shrewsbury COA purchased My Senior Center for $12,000. The amount of work that the My Senior Center software does would cost the town of Shrewsbury probably $50,000 or $60,000 for a person every year, right? So that one-time payment of $15,000 has essentially saved the town of Shrewsbury $50,000 to $60,000 on a salary. That's the way I look at it, right? So we're definitely getting our money's worth from it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
So the next one is Senior Center closures. So, I met with Kevin Mizikar, town manager, last week to discuss with him kind of sometimes the chaos that happens when there's a snowstorm. Shangara had brought it up a couple of months ago, specifically with meal services and transportation. So it doesn't make sense, right, to send transportation that's carrying our community members out on the road if the school buses aren't even on the road, right? So we follow whatever the school system is. ESWA has told us that they would prefer that we also should follow the school closures, because it's volunteers out on the road that are doing the congregate meals and things like that. So with that said, met with Mr. Mizikar last week. He agreed that effective immediately that we would start following the closures of the school delays. So if the school's delayed 2 hours, our doors don't open until 10 o'clock. If the schools close, our doors don't open at all. But the staff still reports to work. So it's still working time. It's a good opportunity for us to kind of coordinate, get together, and play catch up. But it's a lot, because it makes more sense for the people utilizing the senior center to understand, instead of having 3 different ways of operating the senior center, it was getting very, very difficult. Sometimes making 2 or 3 phone calls within 2 hours to make changes. So this is effective immediately. WRTA has been notified. ESWA has been notified, as well as we've put it on all of our marketing and social media avenues, and we did post it on the doors. In addition, this Friday and next Friday is the painting of the senior center for age-friendly dementia painting. So the senior center will be closed. Renee and Cynthia will actually be working from this office, this room right here, on Fridays with the van drivers. So we will still have Meals on Wheels happening. They'll be coming in through the back door of the senior center, and outreach and transportation will still be happening. They'll just be functioning from this office. Any questions on closures or delays?
It'll be interesting to see how well it works to track with this school openings, closures, and delays. Because sometimes, and I don't know so much for Shrewsbury, but in Boston, they'll close or delay because they can't clear the walks and, the sidewalks, parking lots at the schools.
Yes.
That they have a custodian doing that.
Yes.
And they just can't keep up with all that. I don't know, Shrewsbury does a pretty good job, from what I've seen, of clearing the snow off the roads.
Right, so Mr. Mizikar and I did have this conversation too, and with the winter and the infrequency of it happening, that the benefit outweighs the risk. of not having the senior center open. And again, not having the two, no matter what, even thinking, having that thought process, because we did think through that, no matter what, transportation and nutrition are still not happening, right? Because those two are following the cancellation policy anyway. So now you're still asking people to drive in, and what we find many times is our phones ring off the hook. Did the instructor cancel? Did the instructor cancel? So we're literally fielding 50 calls in the morning within a half an hour span of people asking if things have canceled. Now it's like, we know that there'll be a hump until people get used to it. But I did have a woman come up to the counter last week. She asked to speak with me, and she wanted to know why this policy wasn't in place, because she's like, so you're telling me I have to go on the website, try to figure out if the town is canceled versus watching it on the news, drinking my coffee, knowing that I shouldn't come to the senior center. So that totally makes sense to me.
Okay.
So a decision had to be made, and this seemed like the best one for staff procedures and to just make the community safe. And like I said, it's so infrequent that we're hoping the benefit outweighs.
I'm just curious, for the people that are calling and asking, I mean, do we have access to them via email, text, or any of those kind of, electronic means of notifying people?
So notifying people if we're closed?
Yeah.
Well,
So the people that are calling you, 50 and a half on
we
out.
call them back and we tell them that we're either closed or we're open in many cases, because
But I'm just looking for some way to be proactive to head off the influx of a bunch of calls.
that's why we changed the policy. So the policy will state that we're following the school system, so we don't have to take those, because I would receive phone calls from the town manager's office in the morning stating this, that, or the other thing, then I would make the phone calls, and then it would change a couple hours later. So it wasn't a good use of working time, it was confusing, people were getting agitated. And then again, we have people out, so, yeah, to answer your question about like the sidewalks and things like that, yeah, it doesn't mean that the whole town is incapable of passing or getting into the senior center, but if you have 5 different ways of doing things, it's confusing for everybody. Somebody's not getting the right information, right? So,
Is it working better already, or is it too soon to tell?
well, today, so is it working better? Yesterday I had to correspond again with a couple of emails with a partner, asking questions that they already had answers to. So it's a work in
It'll
progress.
take
Right.
Okay.
Today was something. What's the day?
Who decides the school closures? The town manager or the
The
school
superintendent and the
superintendent?
DPW,
Yeah.
and then the buildings closures goes to the town manager.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Might revisit this in the future to see how well it's going. All right, outreach, small home repair, 1,000 jobs.
Yes, we hit a real great milestone. So these volunteers have been volunteering in the community for small home repair since 2009, and something like 4 or 5 of the original volunteers have been doing it since then. So it's pretty amazing. So that's 1,000 separate requests from residents. However, it doesn't capture the multitude of requests that could be in one request, number one. And number two, a lot of times they're doing the work in 2s or 3s if the job requires it and because they really enjoy doing it. So that 1,000 number is a lot times more than you might realize. And that also covers, that's a duplicated number, so that also covers over 400 residents who actually have been helped by this program. So, and it just keeps growing. I think, what's the number, 120 or 130 this year? Which is a record because typically,
130 homes?
yes,
residences?
yep, residences. And a typical year is usually around 80 to 90, so.
How many
Are you
volunteers?
getting more requests than you can service?
Not that we could service, no, we're happy to advertise, and they're always happy to have more. So,
How many volunteers participate in that?
so we have 11 volunteers that participate in any one time, and I'm trying to remember how many did this year.
9?
9, okay. So sometimes people fall in and out for whatever reason, if they have an illness or something going on, but, yeah.
What types of assistance they provide?
So,
Track it?
Hmm?
You track the types of assistance?
oh, we track it, yes, yeah. So the types of assistance typically are trying to keep seniors, safe in their home. It's related to health and safety. So preventing people from getting up on ladders. They'll change light bulbs, smoke detector batteries, put smoke detectors in. They'll hang drapes and blinds. They actually caulk windows. That's kind of a health thing because then they're preventing, cold coming into the home. They've taken care of trip hazards, like if there's a loose tile, they'll restick it. Tighten cabinet doors. Grab bars are like one of the biggest requests for people's bathrooms, and handrails as well on staircases. Those are really huge. Many residents, if they either recognize it for themselves or many times I'll get a call and they'll say, well, I had a fall and my occupational therapist said I need this, and then we'll go there and we'll do that for them. So,
Incredible. Thank you.
yeah. All right, so besides that,
Benefits update. Fuel
yeah. So for fuel assistance, I just want to remind people that the fuel assistance season is from November 1st till April 30th, so you still have time to get your application in. And that would help cover a portion of your heating, and that also includes electric heat. And it's based on income by family, the amount of family members in a household. And for singles, the income, and this is gross income, the gross income limit is $51,777. And for couples, it's $67,709. So if you have any questions on that, if you have a larger number of people in your household, you can just, call me or SYFS, who takes these applications, and I can let you know whether you qualify and whether you should make an application.
Can I ask a question with regards to that? I remember you mentioning that people could get an emergency fill.
Yeah, so for people who have fuel oil, because, with natural gas or with electric, your heat just keeps coming. They don't shut you off during the winter. Fuel oil is a different story because while they're waiting for their benefit, it costs, many hundreds of dollars if you're running low on oil. So if you get down to 1/8 of a tank or less, the town has a fund to give a one-time fill of 100 gallons of fuel oil, and that's to get you over the hump until you get your fuel assistance award. And the other thing is, if you run out a second time and you're down 1/8 of a tank, then we can put you through to SMOC, and then they will expedite your application if it has not gone through yet.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then for SNAP, that's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program for food stamps. There's a lot going on with that, with people's benefits being cut. Some of it is that the federal government has actually cut dollar benefits to the states, but the other part of it is that now there are new working requirements for people typically under age 59 to be able to either work or volunteer and have that documented for 80 hours a week.
80 hours a month. 80 hours a month.
I'm sorry, 80 hours a month to maintain their benefits.
Hey, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, right. Even 80 hours a month can seem insurmountable to some people. However, it goes by the amount of benefits that you have. so that you're only working up till that amount, and at $15 an hour, it wouldn't have to necessarily go up to all the way up to $80. 80 hours in a month. So, and a lot of people don't think that they qualify for SNAP, but SNAP weighs heavily on reducing, unlike fuel assistance, which is a gross income program. SNAP is for seniors, it's a net income program. So it reduces your countable benefits by your housing expenses, which also include telephone and internet and that sort of stuff. And medical expenses are a huge way to reduce your countable income to qualify for SNAP. So, don't ever think, if you have a question, don't assume that you may not qualify, because you might. So, and the other program that I want to highlight is the Senior Circuit Breaker program, because so many seniors don't think they qualify because they don't file their income taxes. This is a rebate program. You don't need to file your income taxes to qualify for a rebate for homeowners and renters who have an income limit, say for a single person, of $69,000 a year. And that check this year could be up to $2,820. Last year, I think it was $2,580 or $2,590. The year before, it was around $2,400. When the program started, when the program actually doubled, because it used to be $1,200. Now, for people who are trying to get their taxes done, AARP at the Senior Center does them for free, but I believe that all those appointments are full. So it may be worthwhile to actually pay a tax preparer if you're going to get such a rebate. And you can amend your taxes. You can do them for this year and amend them for 2 years prior and get those rebates. And that's quite a lot of money. So I encourage people to do that. So beside that, we have nursing hours the last Monday of the month, which is starting February 23rd from 9 to 10. And we also have, I want to announce, I have a lot of people looking for housing lately, with rents going up and things like that. And, there is what's called a RAF program, Rental Assistance for Families in Transition. Usually that's for someone who is, experiencing a temporary hardship. But they can help try to keep people in their homes by providing some assistance. They can also help with deposits when you're looking for a new place. And basically you can make an application online and have a virtual visit online, or you can make an application there at the regional office and meet with the person there. And there are two places that do that. There's RCAP Solutions in Worcester, and there's SMOC in Framingham, where you can get those. On a similar subject, if you know anybody who is homeless, there's a new homeless shelter that will be opening in June. And this is basically a sober shelter for people age 62 plus. There are some requirements. You had to have been homeless for the first time, and you need to pass a CORI and a SORI test. And that's, and there are 19 units. The units themselves are contained units, with a bedroom and a living area for individuals as well as families. So
Located where?
Leicester. Leicester.
Lester.
Yeah. And for programs that we have coming up, we have next week on February 18th In the Whale. So that's a documentary about the lobster diver who was diving for lobsters, and he wound up in a whale's mouth and survived to tell about it. And David Abel, who is the filmmaker and a journalist, is going to be there to introduce the film and to have a little talk about it afterwards. So that's going to be really fun.
I've seen it. It's pretty interesting.
Have you? Yeah. Yeah.
When
and
is it
Hmm?
again? When is it?
February 18th. That's what day of the week is that?
Wednesday.
Yeah, from 1 to 3.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. And we also have a new series starting in April. April 15th from 10 to 11:30. So the series is being facilitated by Laura Dusha Nelson, who's an integrated health and wellness coach. And we're going to start with an introduction, and then we're going to move on to 3 programs. And it's called Making Space, Conversations of Life, Death, and What Matters Most. So that should be really interesting. And it's really to have people talk about things that matter to them, and a safe space, a confidential space, that sort of stuff. So, and it could be even almost like an extension of our grief and loss program that we have.
Is this in a group setting?
It's a group setting. It'll be held in our conference room. And we're just going to videotape the first session where we're just introducing the program so that we can make people aware of it. Yeah. And we're still ongoing with our nutrition class. Next month, we're going to have protein as the subject. So.
People love that class.
Yeah, they do. So we have a tasting, and that's some of the items are provided by our food pantry, and they're given recipes and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Good.
And I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Programs.
So for the Interage Alliance, our student volunteers are hosting a presentation. It's called Platters of Perspective, Picking Apart Food Insecurity Together. It'll be held on March 15th, which is a Sunday, at the library. And the whole point of it is to learn about food insecurity in the community. So there'll be a student speaker, and Holly will be there speaking about the food pantry, specifically our food pantry. And they will also be collecting canned goods and non-perishables for anybody that comes, and it'll be donated to our food pantry.
Okay.
Yahoo update. We're going to be doing Yahoo again this year for spring cleanup, as long as we have enough chaperones and student volunteers this year. So I'll say this week we'll start sending out the QR codes. We'll do it on our social media, the emails, the website, and also give the students actual flyers to hand out for anybody to sign up who's interested. So as long as we have enough interest and volunteers, then we will hold it again.
Can you just speak to Rise?
Not until it's confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the chaperones for Yahoo, they are Corey Sorry checked?
Yes, all of them.
Okay, good.
Can I ask you too, on the Yahoo program,
Yeah.
what's the minimum age?
6th grade.
6th grade?
6th to 12th grade for the students, and then the adults.
Is there any reach out to the local Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts?
Yeah, well, we try to do as much.
Yeah.
Please come help us as possible. So, whoever we can reach.
Yeah. We have notified them of this particular one. I think it interferes with some of their weekend classes or schedules. So far, we haven't had a lot of response from them, but when we did open up to junior high, we started to get a little bit more. It's really the chaperones, the adult chaperones, that we need assistance with. Last year, we had to utilize recreation department and their part-time staff, and we're not really looking to, spend those expenses on a recreation department to help us. We want the volunteer, we want the community to come together. That's what the whole purpose of this program was. So if we don't get those chaperones and enough students, because Aisha and Casey were actually out and about on weekends last year, we might have to cancel it permanently.
The the chaperone provides the driving, supervision, the rakes and such supplies. Who supplies those?
We do.
We do.
Really?
Yep, and those actually came from, originally, when we bought them last year, it was from a very generous donation. So we bought all of the rakes, all of the tarps, we had the swag, we buy the bags, the leaf bags from Home Depot. So each group that goes out on Saturdays are all supplied with all of those, so they have to have a car that will be able to hold all of those things. That's why we asked for 2 chaperones with 2 cars to every house. So it can work, it has worked, but the problem is the people that volunteer have to be committed. It can't be just one and done, you know, that's not the way that the program works. And unfortunately, we can't have the COA staff, again, leave and not work during the weekday when the senior center is open, instead work on the weekend. So we really just need the community to come together and see how this will work. Otherwise, it is a lot of work on our part to try to make it happen. So we can only expend so much more of our time on something that might not be work. But one of the things that we are doing is next month or later this month, we are meeting with Recreation Department. So before the program folds, or we decide to cancel it permanently, we want to talk to the Recreation Department to see if it's something that they might be able to take over, and perhaps where we are able to help but not lead, because we're thinking that with the size of with the size of the town of Shrewsbury compared to the size of Sterling, where this program originated from, it's 5 times as large. So it's probably the reason why it was so successful in Sterling and where it's not as easy in Shrewsbury. So again, before we cancel anything, we always try to, figure out the best that we can, but sometimes there just isn't a solution.
So you said on the one and done, was that in reference to chaperones?
Yeah. Yep. So we need about 6 chaperones for every weekend at the minimum.
At least 4.
If
Each
we're only
site
doing,
needs 2,
It-
yeah, we wanted
orig-
to do 5, right?
Right. Originally, we wanted to get like 2 to 4 houses done each Saturday on every single weekend, but then it came down to only 2 houses because we're losing people. So it really just stems down to the commitment portion.
Are they reimbursed mileage for the use of their car?
We have not offered that. Again, we're trying to make this so it's a complete volunteer opportunity where we're not expending any expenses except on the materials themselves for the community to go out.
How many weekends? What day of the weekends?
So it's always a Saturday morning, and it's anywhere from 4 to 5, depending upon if any had to be canceled due to weather. And that's in the spring and the fall.
Okay.
So we do have an upcoming lion dance. It's going to be on Tuesday, March 3rd at 3:30, and it'll be from the Imperial Lion Dance Team. They're going to come put on a lion head dance, and we're going to be giving out red envelopes as well.
Explain.
The red envelopes are given out in Chinese culture to promote wealth, luck, prosperity. It's just a good fortune type of thing. So it'll help with our multicultural goals
This is March 23rd,
on March 3rd.
March 3rd.
Yeah, and they'll be, after the performance, everyone will be able to ask questions and learn more about it and the culture.
In time?
3:30. And then for our St. Patrick's Day meal, so St. Patrick's Day lands on a Tuesday this year, so that's perfect for our Tuesday night dinners. So instead of opening it to just 25 people, as we do every Tuesday, we're going to open it to 50 people. We're going to have corned beef and cabbage and celebrate St. Patrick's Day. We're also going to have on a video to help everybody learn about Ireland. And you can't sign up for that one until March 1st.
And it is a $5 non-refundable, and it is a eat-in, it's not a takeout.
And do you want to speak to Cultural Council?
Which one?
Cultural Council.
Oh, so I did reach out to the Massachusetts Cultural Council to see if they were able to kind of assist in our multicultural goal for this fiscal year 26. And so the Mass Cultural Council is actually coming next month to give a presentation on the opportunities for the community members who might be interested in applying for grants, to how to take advantage of those so they can come in and utilize their talents, if you will, and either come to the senior center or go to like libraries or wherever they might go. They're also going to instruct people on how they can use their EBT cards so they can go to these events for free. Because any event that evidently is put on by Mass Cultural Council, if there is a fee associated, that anybody with an EBT card could still be able to go. So they're going to kind of give a direction on how to participate in what they do. So we thought that that was interesting. And that's it. That's it for programs.
Okay, transportation.
Yep, so the $25,000 Massachusetts Council on Aging grant update, so that is where we extend transportation services to Shrewsbury seniors, 60 plus, or those with differently abled. So on the thriving data, the sheet that we had before, if everybody noticed, the two dates, so since we started this grant back in September, all the way to January. So we started with $25,000, and what we have left of that $25,000 is $12,261.70. We've seen a giant increase in requests coming out. I believe that is in part to our news flashes. We have been working with the town manager's newsletters that go out bi-weekly, as well as social media. I'll give you for instance, we have a resident here in town who needs to go to Boston quite frequently, actually, and he cannot be in a wheelchair. So we utilize Your Inc., and he's actually able to go by bed in the ambulance type transportation, and that costs about $803 each time he goes. So this is wildly, hugely impactful for this particular gentleman. Seeing the way all of a sudden that the grant is being utilized, the other day I did apply for AARP's Community Grant Challenge, and what I did was I basically uploaded everything that was accepted from Massachusetts Council on Aging for this same grant. And if we get that, we'll find out in May. I did ask for $15,000. We get it in May and would have to expense it by December. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity where we can keep this going for our community. So that's where we are with that grant. Any questions?
Nutrition, food pantry.
With the food?
Yeah, so currently we have 158 households signed up, and 122 participate at any one time during the course of the month. Currently, we reevaluated our food pantry policy because we have so many people participating, and we want to make sure that we can provide, services to people who really, really need it. So prior to this, we weren't requiring anyone to be part of a benefit program or anything like that. But we are now actually requiring that people participate in a benefits program. And if people are unsure whether they are or whether they would qualify, I can help them do that. And those benefits programs include, one of them is if you live in housing, public housing, if you receive fuel assistance, SNAP, if you work in a if you apply to a personal tax exemption program with the town for your property taxes, if you receive Meals on Wheels. I think that's all of them, right? So the one with the highest amount of income that you could qualify for would be for fuel assistance. The rest of them are a little bit lower income qualification, although SNAP potentially could be up there as well, depending on your housing expenses. So for people who are unsure, I encourage you to contact me and we can go over things further. Also for cultural meals, those now are happening on Wednesdays, the first and third Wednesday of the month, although we've had to rearrange things a little bit. So for February, we only had it on the, I believe it was the 4th.
Yep.
Yep. Because we have In the Whale being shown on February 18th, and in March, I think there was another thing going on that we only have at one time. Oh, no, it was April. So April 1st, with our cultural meal, we're having a spring celebration. So that's going to be just a special event. We also changed the hours of the cultural meal so that we expanded the hours. So it's usually during lunch from 11:30 to 12:30, but we've expanded that to 1:15 to use both rooms. And that way we can have more programming, for people who are attending the cultural meals. That's
They
about it.
always seem to be well attended.
Yep.
Okay,
That's it.
new business, old business. Okay, next meeting is Wednesday, March 11th. And motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded? Those in favor, aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.